remember bringing this game home from the video store and booting it up, seeing the amazing animated intro and being so disappointed. Since it was so awful, I only spent around 15 to 20 minutes playing it. Remember, this was pre-YouTube and the internet I had access to was slow as balls, so all I had to go on was the cover. And the cover is very enticing, with amazing artwork and sprite work straight from the anime. But this is a textbook example of don't judge a book by its cover. Well, I guess it's game in this case. Now I'm going to preface this retrospective by saying that when I first played this game as a kid, my expectations were influenced by the fact that I had already played Budokai 1. That being said though, I still think I would have hated it. So, is this game as bad as I remember, or is it worse? Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22 is a Super Butden sub-series game that was released in Europe in 1996 for the PlayStation 1. For whatever reason, it wasn't released in North America until 2003, which is strange given that Budokai 2 was launched that same year. It may be because Dragon Ball Z didn't really take off in the West until about this time, and they needed something for fans who hadn't yet upgraded to the 6th generation of consoles. Due to its late arrival into North America, it was absolutely slammed by critics, with one of my favourite quotes being from Electronic Gaming Monthly with,
"I'm pretty sure DBZ creator Akira Toriyama could take a dump in a bag and sell it to you for the same price, and you'd get more entertainment value out of it."
They also listed the only pro of the game as being able to turn the power off. It's funny. It's funny because it's true. The game starts with a beautiful 2D animated opening. This game was in production around the same time as the Buu saga was being released in Japan. So this is peak 90s Dragon Ball Z animation, where they had really honed the style to what I consider to be the best Dragon Ball Z has ever looked. Look at how amazing Frieza's tail animation is.
Nice.
All 22 characters feature in this opening, which is actually where the game gets its name from. I'm ashamed to admit that as a kid, I didn't have a high enough IQ to figure that out. I always assumed it was just one of those weird Japanese naming conventions where they have really obscure titles just because. I'm looking at you, Kingdom Hearts.
Who is this kook?
All the characters look crisp and on model, superimposed onto a really plain looking background that allows all of the focus to be placed on the characters. As a kid, when I saw this opening for the first time, I was extremely impressed, but also a little confused. At that point, I had only seen up to the end of the Cell Saga, so I had no idea who Great Saiyaman was, or Super Buu. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know who Super Buu was. The version I played was pretty much just a direct translation of the Japanese version. So most of the characters have the Japanese or a bad 90s translation of their name into English. Gotenks is Go Trunks, Raccoon goes by his alias Lycum. Both Android 16 and 18 are referred to as C16 and C18, which I assume stands for Cyborg. Technically they are cyborgs, so that is a more fitting name, but I think Android sounds cooler. Like Jesus once said, if you're going to be wrong about something, then it better be cooler. I may have paraphrased that a bit, but you get the idea. Captain Ginyu is called Genius, but spelt wrong. Master Roshi is Genius Turtle, but this time Genius is spelt correctly. Majin Buu is Majin Buu, as in a scary ghost. The Supreme Kai is Kaioshin, and then there is Super Saiyan 3 Goku, who is referred to as Mega Goku.
I will find a level beyond a Super Saiyan!
So what? Like a Mega Saiyan? Ultra Saiyan?
You're mocking me.
Maximum Over Saiyan.
If I had progressed far enough to unlock Super Saiyan 3 Goku as a kid, I would have genuinely thought that that was the name of the form, because this would have been my first exposure to it. Speaking of weird translations, I have to add in some of my favourite character bios found in the manual. Gohan.
Minus, perhaps, but Max's courage and strength, all you have to do is go for it. First child of Super Goku and Chi-Chi, you has Piccolo as a sensei. You have great respect for him. However, you are kind and timid like a little gentleman, but within you hide a power that is capable of making such terrifying enemies as Frieza and Vegeta tremble with fear. Even though you are small and your fighting technique is nothing special, your special moves such as your Kamehameha or Masen Light are very powerful.
Deborah.
With your evil sword and the flames of hell as your allies, consume all those who dare resist you. You are master of the underworld and have come with Babidi. You ate very difficult to reach and stand well above most warriors. And furthermore, you have a sword. Use it as a special weapon. Attack without letting your opponent get too close. You can then use energy balls full of hellish flames. But beware! Your size becomes a problem if your opponent manages to get right up to you and make for your legs. In that case, you have one solution. Hang on. Use combinations of normal buttons for close combat. Forward/backwards plus square.
And finally, my absolute favorite, the Great Saiyaman.
Be a superhero. Fight for love and justice. Show them what you've got. You are still at school. So, you have to fight behind this mask. Neither Videl nor the others must know. But above all, you love wearing this getup. With varied techniques of a good level, Gohan is not very strong in the attack. Our Masked Avenger does not have the experience of Gohan, and in any case, not in manga or TV series. Luckily, you are good potential Gohan. So forward, Avenger! So he's not strong in the attack, unlike Gohan, who is strong in the attack. So he's a Gohan, but he's not the Gohan that's good at attack, unlike in the manga, who that Gohan is good at the attack. I don't understand what the fuck is going on.
All the voices are taken from the Japanese anime rather than the Funimation version. And I really do mean all of the voices, even the announcer will speak entirely in Japanese, which would be fine if it weren't for the fact that there are 0 subtitles. So before each tournament match, there will be a rather lengthy cutscene with the announcer speaking. But I have no idea what he is saying, and it's unskippable. There were additional cutscenes before each character's match, but they were omitted from the English version, probably because they'd have to dub them over or subtitle them, so they didn't bother with either, which begs the question of why they kept the announcer after removing all of the others. In any case, I doubt we missed out on much because honestly they look pretty bad. The 2D fighters are overlaid onto 3D backgrounds, with the backgrounds looking pretty bland. In most stages, the fighters look really out of place. The character sprites are modelled straight off of the animation cells from the anime. Despite the low resolution that the PS1 could output, they look pretty good when they aren't moving. Each attack only has a few frames of animation, making it look choppy. Additionally, some of the characters' proportions are a bit off. When Gohan punches, for example, his arms appear short and stumpy. The size of the child characters are also really odd. They look too big in comparison to the adults. This is most apparent with Gotenks and Frieza. I know Frieza isn't particularly tall, but next to Gotenks he looks tiny. There's also a weird perspective quirk where when a character flies up into the sky, it appears that they grow in size. Except for the character selection screen, which is horribly constructed, the menus are straightforward but functional. Some of the sprites on the character selection screen are difficult to see because of the crowded design. Captain Ginyu has it the worst. He is pretty much entirely covered up by the characters' names. The soundtrack is okay, it's a bit too quiet in comparison to the characters' voices and sound effects. So that is how the game looks and sounds, but how does it play? Not good. Ultimate Battle 22 is a side-on 2D fighter. Despite the fact that the environments have been modelled in 3D, you are unable to strafe between different planes, and the battles always take place from the same side-on perspective. Battles have no introduction. You and your opponent appear out of nowhere on the stage and engage in a fight. It just starts without anyone yelling fight or anything. The fights are only one round each, but the health bar is quite large and needs to be depleted twice in order to win. You can perform the game's 4 basic movements by pressing the face buttons. X will kick, square will punch, circle will unleash your ki, and triangle will let you fly into the air, and can also be used to bring you back down to the ground. The D-pad is rotated in quarter or half-quarter circle motions to perform special moves, which are then followed by a punch or a kick, but you've undoubtedly noticed how slow everything looks. This game is so slow, and this is coming from someone who happily played Ocarina of Time at 17 frames per second as a kid, and even I would say that this is slow. This game feels so sluggish and unresponsive pretty much all of the time. It's almost like the characters have to contemplate their life choices before performing any of the attacks. There is just no flow to the gameplay at all, which makes performing moves really difficult. Even just doing a simple punch or a kick feels awful. Moves that should be simple only work roughly half the time, and the timing is terribly awkward. When you move backwards and forwards, your character will slide awkwardly along the ground.
What am I watching?
I don't know, but I hate it.
Whether you're on the ground or in the air, you can use the shoulder buttons to dash left or right, but once again the movement is very sluggish and unresponsive. It is really easy to run into an opponent unintentionally, or to simply touch the perimeter of the playing area while doing so. Master Roshi and Mr. Satan cannot fly up in the air, which is a slight disadvantage. However, it is actually really hard to stay in the air. You'll find yourself being constantly knocked down to the ground, so not being able to fly isn't as much of an issue as you would think. The strength bar, which can be found directly below the health bar, provides an indication of the total amount of ki that each player possesses. Ki will be depleted at a faster rate in proportion to the strength of the attack. If you let it run out completely, your character will need to take a moment to regain their breath, during which time you will be vulnerable to an attack. You can replenish your strength by holding down any one of the 3 attack buttons, although this process is excruciatingly slow. It takes some time just for the charging animation to begin, and during that time you are defenseless. This is true not only while you are charging your ki, but also before you can even begin to do so. Managing your ki is very important to having a successful fight, but the speed in which it decreases is extremely harsh, and the game gives you no space to recharge it reliably. The best method for getting your ki back is to wait for your opponent to start charging and then do so yourself. The strength meter will recharge very slowly on its own as the fight goes on. The exceptions to this is Android 16 and 18. Their strength bars will auto recharge much faster, but you cannot do a manual recharge with them. Mr. Satan cannot use ki based attacks, so he has no strength bar. There are no transformations or fusions during battle, except for certain special moves. It's just like in the first Budokai Tenkaichi game, where each transformation is a separate character. Not that there are many transformations anyway. Both Cell and Frieza are in their final form, and Gogeta and Gotenks are already fused. In the Budokai games, the screen would split so you could get far away from your opponent. In this game though, it does not, and you cannot create much space between yourself and the opposing fighter. As a result, you don't have enough area to perform special attacks. They are also easily avoided and diverted. They drain a large portion of your ki, so if you miss, you're pretty much screwed. Even if you do release a special ki move correctly, it's hard to even tell because most of them just look like fireballs.
Disappointing.
This game is really hard, but not in a challenging way, where you want to strive to get better, but more in an annoying way, where it's so hard and it feels like nothing is working properly, that you're making absolutely no progress. That kind of hard. There are difficulty settings, but even having the game set to easy was a struggle. The AI has 2 states, either being omniscient and countering everything you do, or brain dead. It appears that the less active you are, the worse they get, which leads me to believe that the AI is actually reading player inputs. For example, if you just stand at the arena's perimeter, the AI has no idea what to do. They will sometimes just stand there doing nothing or hop around aimlessly, but as soon as you start playing again, they will start beating you to a pulp. I even tried this on the hardest difficulty and got the same result. In essence, the gameplay is utter rubbish. It's a pain in the ass to get even the most basic of moves to work. There's no tutorial or practice mode so you can figure out the controls. It's just trial by fire with this game. It doesn't help that there is no in-game combo list you can look up, so if you didn't have the manual back in the day, then you were shit out of luck. I'm shit out of luck playing this shit. So we've established that the gameplay is a pile of crap. But what about the game modes in which we might endure it?
How about this for another game? I'll fight without using either of my hands.
Okay, then I'll fight without using my shirt.
I think you're missing the point.
Normally, I'd be disappointed that this game lacks a story mode, but since I won't be forced to play it, I'm actually very happy. The first two game modes are very self-explanatory. It's just you versus the computer or you versus a friend. You can basically think of these modes as the arcade modes. You just pick a character and start fighting, and that's it. You don't even get to pick the stage you fight on. But be careful if you enter into 2-player mode without actually having a second controller plugged in. You will get stuck on the character select menu and have to restart the game. In fact, there is no way to back out of a fight midway through. The pause menu is literally just that, a pause, with no options to restart or exit a fight. It traps you forever. Championship mode is the World Martial Arts Tournament, but for some explicable reason it can only be played with 2 players, which is great for people like me who have no friends. To start, you have to pick 8 characters, with the computer picking another 8 randomly, and then they are divided into brackets. I get if you were playing solo that this wouldn't work because you'd end up matching up with yourself, but why not just have a single player mode where you pick only one character? Yeah, it would be short, but it's better than nothing. Even if you don't have a second controller, you can still start up this mode. It's just half of the time you won't be able to do anything but watch one of your characters being demolished by the AI, or you demolishing one of your own characters. It's not even really worth playing because the fights just play out the same as in all the other modes. There is no ring out system, and even if you reach the end and become the martial arts champion, you don't even get anything.
You get nothing!
It just cuts back to the announcer that I can't understand and goes back to the title screen. Build up mode allows you to level up a character and increase their stats. You face off against other characters on the roster, all of whom have been assigned a level. When you level up, your character's health meter increases, they grow stronger than typical characters, their strength meter replenishes faster when you power up, and whatever move you use to defeat the computer becomes stronger. There are a total of 125 levels. Battles will become more difficult as you progress through the levels. This is also how you can unlock the extra 5 characters, if you can be bothered to do it this way. Or you can simply input the code on the title screen that the manual provides to unlock Kid Goku, Genius Turtle, Mega Goku, and Go-Getter. Awesome looking animations will play, introducing each of the characters, which is honestly the best part about unlocking them. The title of the game will then change to Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 27. The final mode is where you and another player can face off, using your own build-up characters, but you need 2 memory cards in order to access this mode. And that's it for the game modes. They all end up feeling about the same at the end of the day, just with slightly different presentation. If you don't like the core mechanics of the game, then there is no enjoyment to be found in any of these modes.
Time to end this. Gun, 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 I cannot miss. Jan, jan, yan, yan, in this ultimate battle.
Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22 is an absolute chore to play for more than 5 minutes. Never have I dreaded replaying a game for a retrospective as much as this one. It's slow and unresponsive, all of the game modes feel the same, it's ugly to look at, and if you have no one to play with, there isn't much content. There is a good variety of characters to choose from, but the gameplay is so bad that none of them are any fun to play as. This game is the ultimate disappointment, and it's even worse than I remember.
Would you like to play again? You have selected no.